So many years ago, I used to go to a coin show in Henrietta, a suburb of Rochester, New York, called the Rochester Area Coin Expo. And it was at that coin show that I discovered how happily single I was, because I had broken up with my girlfriend and I went to the coin show anyway, even though I thought I couldn't. And after a few times going to that coin show happily single, I was talking to one of the dealers. He had a daughter who was maybe 11, 12 years old. And I remember thinking to myself, I gotta keep coming to this coin show for at least 10 more years to get to know her. Because it's so hard to meet a girl who likes to collect coins. I was 21 years old at the time, so she wasn't that much my junior. I just need to stay in touch with her family and get to know her as she grows up. That was my plan. Of course, I graduated from Rochester Institute of Technology and I landed a job elsewhere, so I didn't get a chance to practice that. But I daydreamed about that. Now, one time I was talking to this girl and I had explained to her, you know, if you start with just 1 ounce of gold and you trade it back between gold and platinum every time the ratio, I can't remember which two metals I mentioned, but one of those ratios, just trade it back and forth, in a lifetime you could double your money at least 8 or 9 times, and when you retire you could have thousands and thousands of ounces of gold. And she was like, but why would I want all that gold? And her dad just was so disappointed. I was disappointed at her too, that she just has other things in her life, right? At 11, 12 years old, she has other things that she wants to do. Now fast forward a few years later, in 2016 and 17, I was traveling in Warsaw, Poland, and staying at a hostel, and I got to know the owner's daughter. I think she was about 18 years old, and one night I had shown her how to view Jupiter in the night sky. This was in summer 2017 that I was in Poland, and so Jupiter was close to opposition, and I showed her how to zoom in on it, how to see the moons of Jupiter, and she was really fascinated with that stuff. And I thought to myself, I gotta keep coming back here to get to know her. And actually, I still live with her legacy, because that same trip I got to show her some of my computer games I was writing for a conference, and she had made some suggestions to the graphical user interface, and to this day I still use her suggestions. That's why I keep remembering her. Unfortunately, I was hoping to go back to Warsaw after the quarantine and to get to know her. Unfortunately, when I looked up the hostel, they had closed down during the pandemic and became a quarantine facility. So apparently at one point, when you would travel to Poland, you would have to go into one of their quarantine facilities for 14 days. And that hostel had got remodeled as a quarantine center. And that's unfortunate. I don't know where they are now. But the nice thing about both of these stories is that we didn't have any heartbreak at the end. We didn't have any drama. It was just 1 or 2 times that we saw each other, and it made a lasting impression, probably on her life as well and on mine, right? At the beginning of the pandemic, I had gone to the boat launch in Kirkland, Washington, and I had talked to, this time she was older than me. I think she was a middle-aged woman who was playing with a remote control helicopter, and I thought that helicopter could fly from Kirkland all the way to Seattle. And I asked her, you know, aside from the remote control maybe not having that range, what's to stop something like that from flying around the world? And we talked about various setups that could do that, you know, maybe solar panels, and obviously you would have to chase the sun around the world. Maybe you have to go a little bit far north or south so you could stay in daylight the whole time. And we talked about how that design would look like, and of course I never saw her again. But it's nice because we don't have to break up at the end, we don't have to have drama at the end. And when I think about it, if I had to give one thing up, right, these one-off conversations versus the relationships that last a few years, I think I'd rather give up the actual relationships. The everyday having 7.8 billion partners every day that I go out, that's a lot more important to me, in my opinion. And so if you're single, you have 7.8 billion partners. Enjoy them.